I've seen young guys who fight for an idea, but I have seen those things on the other side too.
Well, Chris the Swiss is a hybrid. So first of all, we had to find the documentary part to shoot the footage. And then on the base of that footage, I could write the so-called fiction part, which is animation. It's fiction, so it's a script, it's a film script. The story of my cousin kind of hit me again when I got approximately into the same age, like the age when he died. Up until then, he had a really adventurous life, and I started to compare my life with his life. For me, it was very important that the film is not only a family story, but goes wider as well. Chris died in a very brutal war of former Yugoslavia, and this was for me always very important to include it also. So Chris is only, let's say, the starting point to lead me into this, let's say, dark world of warfare and mercenaries. In the beginning, I wanted to make just a documentary film, but then I realized there are so many pieces that are missing, which I don't really know what happened to my cousin there. And me coming from the animation, I mean, it was kind of natural to try to include animation into the film and to tell the pieces that I don't really know in animation. Also to try to find symbolic images for the very subjective, let's say subjective topic of war.
I remember that something very important was happening. More than 20 years have passed since my cousin Chris died, and I'm still obsessed by his story. I want to understand why Chris, a young Swiss man who grew up in a peaceful country, joined a faraway war and ended up dead.
I do a lot of black and white illustrations. I use ink very often, so for me this was kind of natural to use black and white here as well. I also think it's black and white is a good approach because the film deals with memory, with fainting memory as well. The first thing that I did when I started my research was trying to trace down his colleagues, the other journalists who were working with him in the war. And there was one Spanish journalist who had all that footage, who did the film images in the brigade. So I had these pictures of my cousin in this uniform and with the Kalashnikov. In terms of the footage, it was kind of difficult because it was times of wars. There were a lot of freelance journalists going around, and most of the footage is the copyrights are with the Yugoslav TV, which is not existing anymore. So it was kind of hard to really trace the footage. For me, the research was really interesting because it gave me an insight into a world which I've never known and would never have approached. It's a world kind of far away from my reality, also as a woman, let's say. And at the same time, I also realized that there is a kind of fascination. I had a kind of fascination myself. It started to grow because I wanted to know more and more and more, and I couldn't stop to research. I mean, you meet those people who were in the war, who work in the war, and you kind of learn to know them as well. And this was a weird experience because for me it's very far from my reality.
They returned your notebooks with your body, reports from the war.
Cristian era una persona que te decía, cuando veía un muerto civil, se preguntaba, ¿están matando civiles? Esto no es una guerra.
Journalist, don't shoot!
Es hat einfach Journalisten gegeben, die wurden nicht mit der Tatsache fertig, dass sie als Zuschauer dort sind, dass sie als Beobachter dort sind.
You threw yourself headfirst into the mayhem of war. What did you want to be? A mercenary? A journalist?